All right, so I want to start learning about Armageddon, and so this came about because someone had asked when is Armageddon, and admittedly, the second half of the Book of Revelation is where I've spent the least amount of time. You like the piano? All right, well maybe I'll just turn it down. Um, it's just I think it's just a little bit too much ding 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 in my ear. Anyway, so someone had asked about Armageddon, and I think I'd been assuming, I think a lot of us were assuming that Armageddon happened after the 1,000 year reign. But then when we went to go look it up, it turns out that it doesn't. It shows up in Revelation 16:16. And it got me thinking, well, if we're in the Great Tribulation, to where this time of great pressure, and one of the attributes of the Great Tribulation is that if it hadn't been shortened, no flesh would survive. And that another attribute is that it's going to be worse than anything that's happened since there were nations, and worse than anything that ever will happen since there's nations. That's from Daniel 12. When Michael stands up, there will be great tribulation as since there was nations. Um, then is it possible, because Armageddon is supposed to be like the final battle, right? Like the final battle before Christ returns. Well, based on the timeline, we're in seal number 5, and seal number 6 is arguably when Christ returns, because it says in Matthew 24, um where do I still have it? Matthew 24 right here. So you've got seal 4, seal number 5, and seal number 6. This is when Christ returns, and they will see the sign of the Son of Man on the clouds of heaven with great power and glory, and he will send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds and from one end of heaven to the other. So that sounds like a gathering together, right? I mean, granted, it is limited to the elect. So the question is who are the elect? We also know from Revelation that there's two harvests. There's this one at seal number 6, but then there's also the harvest of the grapes of wrath. Where's that? There you go. So Revelation 14:14. Then I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and on the cloud one sat like the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him who sat on the cloud, thrust in your sickle and reap, for the time has come for you to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. So he who sat on the cloud thrust in his sickle. So I'm assuming this is the way this is written. It sounds like it's the wheat. So the elite are probably the good fruit, right? But then you have the reaping of the grapes of wrath, which that's seal number 7. I believe technically seal 6 is called the Lamb's wrath. Seal number 7 is called God's wrath. I'm assuming that the reaping of this one, so this one is um so and I'm going to just summarize here because we've gone through this so many times before. If you need me to actually show the evidence, I will, but I just don't want to keep repeating things for those who are here every night. So we've got seal number 6, which seems to be the magnetic pole shift. So the Earth is going to actually rotate. Here I got an illustration of what that looks like. So right now, this is what the Earth is tilted a little bit like that. And what's going to happen is this part, so seal number 6 is going to open, and the Earth is going to do that. So basically, where the North Pole is it's going to rotate down here to the equator, and then likewise, the South Pole is going to be at the equator. That's the opening of seal number 6. So we get that from the description of seal number 6, with the sky rolling up and the mountains and the island moving out of their place. Ben Davidson, who's a scientist, talks about this quite often. He has his own YouTube channel called Suspicious Observers and Space Weather News. I think he's Space Weather News on Twitter. But he talks about the magnetic pole shift and has really been talking about this a lot lately. And I think that the closer we get to the end of this year, it's probably going to be a global topic if this timeline is correct. So right now, we're the only ones looking at the end of this year for the magnetic pole shift. Science in general that monitors the magnetic pole shift isn't even talking about the Earth rolling over. But there is a group of which Ben Davidson is part of that group who are theorizing that when the magnetic poles get to a certain point and the shields around the Earth get weak enough that it's going to the Earth is going to rotate, which sounds like the description of seal number 6. So we have this very short period of time. So Armageddon either needs to fit here or here. So that's what we're looking at. So this is why. So this is the Great Tribulation is said to be the worst time ever. And it's gearing up to be. I mean, like here, tribulation, the Greek word is thalipsis, which means pressure. But it's not just a time of pressure, but it's also a time of death, because had he not shortened it, no flesh would survive. That implies death. And then also seal number 5. It's the martyrs under the altar saying, "How long, Lord?" And the response is, you got to wait until your fellow servants and brethren are killed as you are. So there's some more people who need to be martyred, and I'm assuming that their deaths are going to serve to help get the final wheat who are holding on. They're balancing between wheat and tare. I don't know how else to say that. But, in the same way that like Charlie Kirk, his assassination caused a movement of people to move towards God and Jesus, his son, that there's going to be more of that, ultimately culminating in the 2 witnesses ultimately being killed. So I am expecting there to be that time of tribulation. And the question is where does Armageddon fit in that? Does Armageddon happen here? So like is this the Great Tribulation, and then does Armageddon happen here? So I found this little explainer video, just kind of as a jumping off point. I'm not endorsing it as truth, but I like to consider things that other people have done as a jumping off point for work. Fury's done a bunch of work on this too, so this is my focus for the next couple of days, is trying to figure out this question: Is Armageddon the final end time battle, and is it associated with Gog-Magog, or is it something entirely separate? It seems as though it's separate, but it's still worth considering.
In this video, you'll learn all you need to know about Armageddon. You'll see its location, learn about its historical significance, and what is going to happen there at the end of the age. You'll also see that the final climactic battle between Jesus Christ and the armies of the world at the end of this age is not called the Battle of Armageddon. Stick around till the end, because the Bible reveals some pretty shocking events that will occur in our future. And don't just believe us, but dive into your Bible, look up these verses, and prove it for yourself as we explore this ancient prophecy. Point number 1. Armageddon is a hill. The word Armageddon is only found once in the Bible, in Revelation 16 verse 16, which says, "And they gathered them together to the place called in Hebrew Armageddon." Armageddon is a transliteration of the original Hebrew Har-Megiddo, which means hill of Megiddo, or the mountain.
So let's go look at where Megiddo is. Megiddo. It's in Jerusalem. So there you go. So this is... Oh, you know what? I need to add markers on here so I can put markers. So this is Jerusalem right here. And Megiddo is right here. I think there's a couple different places. I don't know if you saw that. There's a couple Megiddos. So there's this one in the Jezreel subdistrict, and then there's this one in the North District. So you got that one, and then that one. There you go. So you got a couple little spots. So it's basically this area. I'll add markers tonight so we can like outline and mark and draw up areas. All right, let's get back.
Mountain of Megiddo. This Mount of Megiddo is located about 55 miles north of Jerusalem and overlooks the largest plain in Israel, the Valley of Jezreel, or the Plain of Esdraelon. It is actually not a mountain, but a tell. That's a mound or a hill created by many generations of people living and rebuilding on the same spot. Throughout history, numerous forts were built at this location to guard the Via Maris.
So, do you need me to turn up my audio or the audio of the video? In my ear, they sound equal. So you got to tell me which one's not. And the let's see, the meter. I guess I could turn my volume up a little bit. There you go. Is that a little bit better? You let me know.
An ancient trade route linking Egypt with Damascus. So basically, Armageddon is a word used only once in the Bible that describes a hill in Israel. But this isn't just an ordinary hill. This location has had a long and bloody history. Point number 2. Megiddo was the site of many ancient battles. Due to its strategic location, Megiddo has seen quite a few battles over time. It is one of history's bloodiest battlefields. In fact, some historians believe that more battles...
It might have just been me. I was kind of speaking softly because I kind of get that way. Sometimes I forget I'm on air. I just talk to myself. Sorry. I'll speak up in the future.
Battles have been fought there than at any other place in the world. For centuries, Egyptian armies from the south and various empires from the north collided right there in the flat, open expanse of the valley. But the first biblical mention of Megiddo occurs in the book of Joshua. It is listed as one of the cities Joshua and the Israelites defeated during the conquest of Canaan at the end of the 15th century BC. And these are the kings of the country which Joshua and the children of Israel conquered on this side of the Jordan, on the west, the king of Megiddo. The land was within the territory allotted to the tribe of Issachar, but Megiddo became one of the cities assigned to the tribe of Manasseh. However, Manasseh did not drive out the inhabitants of Megiddo and its villages, for the Canaanites were determined to dwell in that land. Then, during the time of the judges a few centuries later, it was the site of a major engagement between the Canaanite captain Sisera and the Israelite forces under Deborah and Barak. As the song of Deborah and Barak sang in victory recounts, "The kings came and fought. Then the kings of Canaan fought in Tanakh by the waters of Megiddo." Later, in the 10th century BC, King Solomon fortified the city to be used as a military center and chariot town. And 3 centuries after that, the tragic death of King Josiah took place when Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, went to the aid of the king of Assyria to the river Euphrates. And King Josiah went against him. And Pharaoh Necho killed him at Megiddo when he confronted him. Even in post-biblical times, all the way up to the 20th century, this location has been the scene for large-scale confrontations. In World War I, British General Edmund Allenby defeated Turkish military forces there in what became known as the Battle of Megiddo.
That is so weird that this little tiny place right here has seen more battle than any other place. Isn't that weird? How far can we zoom in? And now it's like an industrial complex. So where do you think the battle would be? Would it be like here in this area? So logistically, maybe this area, because you got ports here. So I imagine that people are going to be coming in from all 4 directions. Wouldn't that be weird? I mean, like just now, right now. I mean, this is just, Israel. People are living their lives. There's towns over here. And you're going to know. It's these kind of things that are going to glorify God's name, because this stuff has been written down for centuries in the Bible. It's for millennia. We've known about these things. I mean, like when was Revelation written about? Like either in the 60 AD or 90 AD. Nobody really agrees on when it was written, but it's almost 2,000 years. 2,000 years ago. Written about the Battle of Megiddo. And I think one of the things that I think the anchor point is in one of the records in Ezekiel, it talks about the Mountain of Megiddo. I wonder if this is where the nuke takes place. Is it, or maybe it's, I might be thinking of Zechariah 14, maybe? I think he might bring it up. Let's continue.
These battles and others mentioned both in the Bible and in secular sources have earned this historical location an infamous reputation. It has become a very symbol for war itself. So Megiddo has a long and bloody past. But what about its future? Point number 3, Megiddo is where the world's armies will gather to fight Jesus Christ. The book of Revelation reveals major prophetic events leading up to the return of Jesus Christ. If you want to know more about the sequence of these events and understand more about this mystery,
so he doesn't set foot here to do battle unless Tovia is right about the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds. Where is it? And they will see the sign of the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with great power, with power and great glory. Tovia Singer says that this refers to the festival of Sukkot. So if maybe that's when Jesus is revealed, maybe at the festival of Sukkot, and then could that be when the battle is? That'd be interesting. No, I don't know, because we were promised. So you can pray to escape these things, and we were promised, the Church of Philadelphia was promised that it will be kept from the trials coming on the whole world. So the battle must come after. So the Great Tribulation and the Battle of Megiddo must be later. They must be two separate battles. So how is the Great Tribulation worse than the Battle of Megiddo? I still have this question.
Mysterious book. Be sure to check out our video, Revelation's End of the World Timeline Explained. We read in the book of Revelation that at the end of the age, spirits of demons go out to the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day of God Almighty. And they gathered them together to the place called in Hebrew, Armageddon. Satan and his demons will arouse the political and military leaders of the world to mobilize their forces. They will come to the hill of
That's got to be happening right now. I mean, China just joined in with Iran in bombing the tankers, because the ballistic missiles that were used to bomb the tankers had to be guided by GPS, and they weren't using our GPS, which leaves them to use China's GPS. So the demons must already be out working to gather together towards this battle.
Megiddo and combine their armies at this infamous location. But notice, the final battle is not called the Battle of Armageddon. It is called the Battle of that great day of God Almighty. The battle doesn't actually take place at the hill of Megiddo. Megiddo is only the gathering spot. The world's armies will then march south to fight Jesus Christ at his return, just outside of Jerusalem. Point number 4. The final end-time climactic battle takes place at Jerusalem. God said through the prophet Zechariah, "For I will gather all the nations to battle against Jerusalem. Then the Lord will go forth and fight against these nations as he fights in the day of the battle. And in that day his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, which faces Jerusalem on the east." When God spoke of this end-time judgment on the nations, he said through the prophet Joel, "For behold, in those days and at that time, I will also gather all nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, and I will enter into judgment with them there." The valley of Jehoshaphat, also called the Kidron Valley, is located between Jerusalem and the Mount of Olives. Jehoshaphat in Hebrew means judgment of the eternal. God will judge the nations in this final end-time climactic battle which takes place at Jerusalem. Again, God says through the prophet Joel, "Let the nations be wakened and come to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there I will sit to judge all the surrounding nations. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision." Describing Jesus' return and his end-time fight against the wicked armies of this world, the Apostle John wrote, "Now I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse. And he who sat on it was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and makes war. And the armies in heaven, clothed in fine linen, white and clean, followed him on white horses. Now out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, that with it he should strike the nations. And I saw the beast, the kings of the earth, and their armies gathered together to make war against him who sat on the horse and against his army.
So a couple of things here. So seal number 1 is associated with the white horse. And we learn from Zechariah that the colors of the horses, that the horses associated with the opening of the seals are the spirits that are sent to and fro in the earth. So just because white horse is used here doesn't mean that it always in my mind, just because the context suggests that this isn't the spirit in the same way that it was with seal number 1. Seal number 1 seems to be associated with COVID and the pandemic. That's the rider on the white horse went forth conquering and to conquer. So that was a plague that basically it touched every point on the earth. Even islands were affected. I'm sure there's some places that were untouched. I don't know. I can't say for sure, but I do know that there's a lot of people who you ever watch those sailing YouTubers that go from place to place? They went to some remote random islands and they were still dealing with COVID. So it was everywhere. But my point is this is sometimes used as a means of trying to infer that seal number 1 is referring to Jesus, because here it says, now I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse, and he who sat on him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and makes war. And the armies in heaven, clothed in fine linen, white linen and clean, followed him on white horses. Now out of his mouth goes a sharp sword. They like to say this is Jesus, and that's why the opening of seal number 1 is Jesus. There's definitely an association here with the white horse. I would say that this is a mirror image of the white horse and something to look into further. It could be spiritual, considering it says, now I saw heaven opened and behold a white horse. But just wanted to point that out, that by observation so far, the first time we've seen, scripture apparently fulfilled, seemingly fulfilled, if, like I said, I'm not beholden that the data that we've seen is the only way, but it's pretty firm. You know what I mean? Like the order of things. Each one of the seals opening up has multiple data points pointing to it. I'm pretty sure seal number 1 was the pandemic. So it's interesting that it also repeats itself here. So what this would make me think is this is probably seal number 7, associated with seal number 7, because it mirrors. So this was a white horse. It stands to reason that the clouds opening in another white horse, that would be the opening of seal number 7.
Now notice the horrible punishment brought upon those rebellious evil armies who...
But I don't think that it would be a pandemic per se. That's the thing that I'm wrestling with here.
...who attempt to fight Jesus Christ. And this shall be the plague with which the Lord will strike all the people who fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall dissolve while they stand on their feet, their eyes shall dissolve in their sockets, and their tongues shall dissolve in their mouths.
That sounds like a nuclear blast to me. That sounds like the armies being gathered against Jerusalem and then being nuked. But it's interesting the word plague is used there, and the first seal was a plague.
Jesus will totally conquer the greatest military operation ever assembled. Then the beast was captured, and with him the false prophet who worked signs in his presence, by which he deceived those who received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped his image. These 2 were cast alive into the lake of fire burning with brimstone. And the rest were killed with the sword which proceeded from the mouth of him who sat on the horse. and all the birds were filled with their flesh. At the end of this age, Jesus Christ and his armies of resurrection.
See that phrase there, all the birds were filled with their flesh. That harkens back to seal number 6. See, this is why this is so confusing for me. Is seal number 6, that's in Matthew 24, right here. For as the lightning comes from the east and flashes to the west, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. For wherever the carcass is, there the eagles will be gathered together. So this eagles here, the type of eagle that this is referring to is a vulture. It's a type of meat-eating bird. So this almost sounds like it's referring to the same battle. You know what I mean? I mean, it is possible that this is seal number 7 and seal number 6 is, well, no, because this is what immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, which is how we know one of the seals are being opened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the earth will be shaken. The sign of the Son of Man will appear. I mean, it's not word for word seal number 6, but there's a lot of similarity with seal number 6. Let's go see seal number 6. Revelation 6. 6th seal, 2nd seal, 4th, 5th, 6th. But look, when he opened the 6th seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake. The sun became black as sackcloth of hair. The moon became like blood. And the stars of heaven fell to the earth as a fig tree drops its late figs when the earth is shaken by a mighty wind. The moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven. The stars of heaven fell to earth. Yeah, this has got to be seal number 6. I mean, maybe it could be describing... I don't know.
Resurrected saints, along with his mighty angels, will come to the earth to destroy the evil armies of this world, liberate the nations from wicked and evil powers, and then establish the kingdom of God right here on planet Earth. A new world government is coming with Jesus Christ as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Then at that time, war will be eradicated, and peace will cover the earth for 1,000 years. As the prophet Isaiah foretold, he shall judge between the nations, and rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. So the Bible shows that Armageddon is not what most think. It isn't a battle at all. It is simply an historical location where the armies of the world will gather at the end of this age. However, one final climactic battle will take place at Jerusalem. The battle of that great day of God Almighty will occur, and Jesus Christ and his army will finally put an end to the evil rulers and armies of this age. It will be an incredible sight and a sobering event just before the greatest time in all of man's history. If you enjoyed this video,
I mean, it sounds like the worst thing to happen, and if it hadn't been shortened, no flesh would survive. But how does that fit within the seals, though? Because if we're here and we still have the Gog-Magog battle, then you've got the rotation of the Earth, the magnetic pole shift, maybe in here, and then you've got God's... I would think it would be in here. I would think it would be seal number 7. 7 bowls, 7 trumpets. It sounds separate. It really does. Daniel 12. At that time Michael shall stand up, the great prince who stands watch over the sons of your people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that time, and at that time your people shall be delivered. That's the highlight right there. You can see the evil people nuked, quite literally. Everyone who is found written in the book, and many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, some to everlasting shame and contempt. I may enjoy looking up verses in the complete Jewish Bible, probably. Yeah, I probably would. Does this have the complete Jewish Bible on here? Probably not. Nope. Darn you, logos.com. CJB. It's probably on Bible Gateway. I also wanted to look up Zechariah 4. Not 4, for Zechariah 14. Haven't read that in a long time. Zechariah 14. The day of the Lord. So that would be the question. When is the day of the Lord? Where does that fit on the timeline? Behold, the day of the Lord is coming, and your spoil will be divided in your midst. For I will gather all nations to battle against Jerusalem. We're working towards that right now. Everybody can see that with this battle with Iran. The city shall be taken, the houses rifled, and the women ravished. Half of the city shall go into captivity, but the remnant of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Okay, maybe that already happened. Then the Lord will go forth and fight against those nations, as he fights in the day of battle. And in the day his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, which faces Jerusalem on the east. Okay. And the Mount of Olives shall be split in two from east to west. See, this makes me think. What am I thinking? Bowl number 7. This makes me think of bowl number 7. Where are the bowls? Prelude to the bowl judgments. Third bowl, fourth bowl, fifth bowl, sixth bowl, seventh bowl. Then the seventh angel poured out his bowl into the air, and a loud voice came out of the temple from the throne, saying, "It is done." And there were noises and thunderings, and there was a great earthquake, such as a mighty and great earthquake has not occurred since men were on the earth. What is it with this phrases like never since there were nations or since there were men on the earth? I wonder if they're anchor points. I wonder if they're meant to be linked together, not since men were on the earth. Now the great city was divided into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell, and great Babylon was remembered before God to give her the cup of her wine of the fierceness of his wrath, and every island fled away, and the mountains were not found. See, this is what reminds me of, and the Mount of Olives shall be split in two from east to west. I mean, the timing, so this sounds like this might be like the end, making a very large valley. Half of the mountain shall move towards the north, and half of it towards the south. Then you shall flee through my mountain valley, for the mountain valley shall reach to Azal. Yes, you shall flee as you fled from the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. Thus the Lord my God will come, and all the saints with you. It shall come to pass in that day that there will be no light. The lights will diminish. It shall be one day which is known to the Lord, neither day nor night. But at evening time it shall happen that it will be light, and in that day it shall be that living waters shall flow from Jerusalem, half of them towards the eastern sea, and half towards the western sea. In both summer and winter it shall occur. Ooh. In both summer and winter it shall occur. Is that another reference to like the rotation of the earth? Because how can it be summer and winter at the same time? I mean, basically, you're talking about 2 locations on Earth, right? Summer and winter. So, summer, winter. Could be. Wouldn't that be weird? Half of them towards the western sea. In both summer and winter it shall occur, and the Lord shall be king over all the earth. In that day it shall be, the Lord is one, and his name one. All the land shall be turned into a plain from Geba to Ramon. So, yeah, so this is talking about bowl number 7, the 7th bowl. It has to be, because the islands fled away and the mountains were not found. Let's see, and all the land shall be turned into a plain. That's exactly what a plain is. A plain is a lack of mountains. From Geba to Ramon, south of Jerusalem, Jerusalem shall be raised up and inhabited in her place from Benjamin's gate to the place of the first gate and the corner gate, and from the tower of Hananel to the king's wine presses. The people shall dwell in it, and no longer shall there be utter destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. And this shall be the plague with which the Lord will strike all the people who fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall dissolve while they stand on their feet. Their eyes shall dissolve in their sockets, and their tongue shall dissolve in their mouths. It shall come to pass in that day that the great panic from the Lord will be among them. Everyone will seize the hand of his neighbor and raise his hand against his neighbor's hand. Judah also will fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the surrounding nations. Okay, so you know what this almost seems like a parentheses. So when this is the importance of reading context, is if you don't read the context, then you don't understand parenthetical statements. Previously on, or 2 hours previously, or a week previously, or a year ago. If you're watching a TV show and it like references something, it's easy to see visually. The only way to see it happen in text and literature is if you read the whole context. So what happens here is this seems to be describing the seventh bowl, which is the last thing to happen before the kingdoms of this world. Basically, it's like the last thing to happen before everything is said and done. But then it goes into the details of what led up to it. It shall come to pass in that day. So I think this is, generally speaking, like basically the last couple of years, what's going to happen. I don't think that it's saying that that they're going to be nuked. So once all of this happens, so like once the islands flee away and the mountains are found no more, I think this will have already happened. Does that make sense? And all the land shall be turned into a plain from Geba to Ramon, south of Jerusalem. Jerusalem shall be raised up and inhabited in her place from Benjamin's gate to the place of the first gate and the corner gate. See, this sounds like it's a done deal. The people shall dwell in it, and no longer shall they be utterly destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. So see, because you go from safely inhabited. so this is like the end. Like you're done. Everybody is safe now. But then you have, I believe this is a parenthetical statement because it goes to tell you now you're going into details of what led to that peace. And this shall be the plague with which the Lord will strike all the people who fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall dissolve while they stand on their feet. Their eyes shall dissolve in their sockets, and their tongue shall dissolve in their mouths. It shall come to pass in that day that a great panic from the Lord will be among them. Everyone will see. So this has to be a parenthetical statement. It shall come to pass in that day that a great panic from the Lord will be among them. Everyone will seize the hand of his neighbor and raise his hand against his neighbor's hand. Judah will fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the surrounding nations shall be gathered together, gold, silver, and apparel in great abundance. Such also shall be the plague on the horse and the mule, on the camel and the donkey, and on all the cattle that will be in those camps. So shall this plague be. And it shall come to pass that everyone who is left of all the nations which came up against Jerusalem shall go up from year to year to worship the king. Yeah, so this is the end of the parenthetical statement. So basically you've got Jerusalem's going to dwell safely. So this is basically saying this is the end. So this is the end. Seal 7, Bowl 7. It's a done deal. But before you get to that, this is how the evil is going to be destroyed. They're basically going to be nuked. And it shall come to pass that everyone who is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem. So see, now you're returning back to the day of peace. Like so see how the parentheses works. So basically you've got, you know, you got context that's leading up to Jerusalem dwelling safely. Then you've got like this parenthetical statement that's just like, in order to get to the peace, all the bad guys have to be melted. And then you get back to, and it shall come to pass that everyone who is left after having been melted, the nations which came against Jerusalem shall go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it shall be that whichever of these families. So, what that tells me is this could be referring to now, the Great Tribulation. So, this could be referring back to, even though it seems as though it takes place here with the seventh bowl, because it's a parenthetical statement, you could almost preface it 2 years previous. They were nuked or led to the battle. Something like that. So, yeah. So I still don't know. Here, might as well finish reading this. The nations worship the kings. It shall come to pass that whichever of the families of the earth did not come up to Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, on them there will be no rain. Interesting. If the family of Egypt will not come up and enter in, they shall have no rain. They shall receive the plagues which the Lord strikes the nations who do not come up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Man, is that serious? Have you ever read this before? Wait a minute. You mean it's not going to be fun and rosy and just joy and, bliss? Wait a minute. And it shall be that whichever of the families of the earth do not come up to Jerusalem to worship the King, that's Jesus, the Lord of hosts, on them there will be no rain. What? So you don't get, so they're going to be planting and farming. So you don't get any rain if you don't go visit the king. If the family of Egypt will not come up and enter in, they shall have no rain. That's added. They must have added that just because of this. When it's italicized like that, it means it was added by the translators. On them there shall be no rain. If the family of Egypt will not come up and enter in, they shall have no rain. They shall receive the plague with which the Lord strikes the nations who do not come up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Interesting. This shall be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all the nations that do not come up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. What's interesting about this is, where does the mark of the beast fit in all of this? Because don't all those who take the mark of the beast get tossed into the pit? In that day, holiness to the Lord shall be engraved on the bells of the horses. Oh, that'll bless my wife. She loves horses. I can tell her that I know for sure there will still be horses after Christ comes back. I think she loves horses more than me. And I'm good with that. I love my wife. I want to make her happy. The pots in the Lord's house shall be like the bowls before the altar. Yes, every pot in Jerusalem and Judah shall be holiness to the Lord of hosts. Everyone who sacrifices shall come and take them and cook in them. In that day there shall no longer be a Canaanite in the house of the Lord of hosts. Interesting. Huh. Well, that's a lot to consider. I still don't know the answer because of this parenthetical statement here. I guess we continue to research. I got to go find some more places in the scripture to kind of get some answers to put this together, because Zechariah 4 seems to imply, so I mean, like, I can line this up. I can line it up with the last bolt, so this is towards the end, but this seems like it's a parentheses to me. It seems like this is a parenthetical statement which can refer to what happened to lead up to the peace. So, I mean, this could be describing what we're about to go into right now, which is right here. Man, the closer we get to the end, the more things we have. It's like the easier it gets to put the puzzle pieces together because you have less places to put them. Can you imagine if we were way back here still? Like, there are people who still think seal number one hasn't been opened. Trying to figure out where these things fit, it would be impossible if you don't have this basis. Um, and it really all hangs off of that anchor point. Yeah, right there. Anyway, you guys have anything else you want me to cover for tonight? That's all I had. I just wanted to kind of start a basis of working towards understanding Armageddon and the battle of Gog-Magog and how, what we have left to expect before Christ returns. And apparently now what we're going to be doing after he returns is definitely visiting them for the festivals, otherwise suffering consequences of no rain or plagues. Ew. Let's see. What's going on in the chat? You may enjoy, let's see. Yes, it's in the Bible Gateway. An example for me was better understanding why our Messiah used the word forsaken. Okay. I was taught that the Great Tribulation is when God's wrath is poured out, and it's thought when Jesus was prayed in the garden, he was asking for wrath when it have come upon everyone, summer and winter at the same time, polar shift. Yep. That was the promise given to First Kings, but then King Solomon blew it. A lot of new faces in the chat today. God gave that promise to Solomon and then told him that if he followed after other gods, he was take the kingdom from him. That same story is in Kings. Asking prayers for my son-in-law's heart blockage, and that the insulin pump they wouldn't allow to take with him will be returned, and will get lifelong type 1 diabetes under control. Okay. It's a beginning. Let's see. My hope is that the two witnesses will help us a lot. You are on my prayer list, Liz. Thank you. Blessings for all. Nope. All right. Well, trying to think, is there anything else we want to cover tonight? I need to go figure out the order of the bowls and the trumpets. I think that will help inform the where the battles and the gathering happens. I think there's a good argument for Gog and Magog happening now. So that's one puzzle piece we can figure out where it fits. The lamb and the 144,000. That's something we haven't talked about much. 144,000. Then I looked, and behold, a lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written on their foreheads. That's an important thing to highlight. And I heard a voice from heaven like the voice of many waters, and like the voice of loud thunder, and I heard the sound of harpists playing with harps. They sang as it were a new song before the throne, before the four living creatures and the elders, and no one could learn the song except the 144,000 who were redeemed from the earth. See, this is the thing I wonder is, when were the 144,000 already been redeemed? We would never know. Honestly, we would never know if the 140, because 144,000 out of 9 billion. I've looked this up before. How many people die in a day around the world? 170,000 people die around the world every day. So more people die every day than the 144,000 who are redeemed. So they could have been redeemed from the earth already. I just don't think we would ever know. Or it could be, the 144,000 could be people who are The last ones to be martyred before seal number 6, because they could be people who are in the public's eye, and then if there's like a mass slaughter of the 144,000, if basically suddenly if you saw all the YouTube channels talking about the end time go off air at the same time, that could fulfill the seal number 5, that talks about waiting for your fellow servants and brethren to be killed as they ought. That could cause a shift or a change. That could be a pivotal point. So if this hasn't happened yet, it's entirely likely it might happen in seal number 5, between seal number 5 and seal number 6. I would assume. I don't have anything else to contribute to that. These are the ones who were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are the ones who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These were redeemed from among men, being firstfruits to God and to the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no deceit, for they are without fault before the throne of God. 144,000 were of the tribes of the Jews. Yeah, but the thing about that is how do you know if you're a Jew or not? I mean, like, there are definitely people who are of the tribes of the Jews who probably don't know it. I mean, it does say in where is it? Revelation. Where does it talk about? Is it Revelation 11? The 2 witnesses? Um, yeah, 12,000 from each tribe. Yeah, there's not a lot said about the 144,000, unfortunately. There's some things that we can infer from the 144,000. So here's where it talks about, the sealed of Israel. So you remember how they're sealed with the Lamb's father's name. So if you want to know what the mark of the beast is if the 144,000 are sealed with the Lamb's father's name, anything other than the Lamb's father's name qualifies for the mark of the beast. After these things, I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, on the sea, or on any tree. Then I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God, and he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was granted to harm the earth, saying, Do not harm the earth, the sea, or the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God on their foreheads. Ooh. Is this pointing to seal number 5? Till the servants and our fellow brethren are killed as they ought? And I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel, they were sealed. And then you've got 12,000 from each tribe. And after these things I look, and behold, a great multitude which no one could number, of all nations, tribe, people, and tongue, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes, with palm branches in their hands, and crying out with a loud voice, saying, Salvation belongs to our God who sits on the throne and to the Lamb. All the angels stood around the throne, and the elders and the 4 elders. Let's see. Then one of the elders said, Who are these arrayed in white robes? Where did they come from? And I said, Sir, you know. These are the ones who come out of the Great Tribulation and washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Therefore, they are before the throne of God, who serve him day and night. So that answers that. So the 144,000 are probably who's referred to here in seal number 5. So seal number 5, no, that's the 5th trumpet. Where's seal number 5 is in Revelation 6. Yeah, so this would be another parenthetical statement. This is another parenthetical statement. After these things I saw the 4 angels. So after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the four corners. So that's probably, I wonder if that's the four living creatures. Are they referred to in here also? Holding the four winds of the earth, the sea. Then I saw this angel no harm. Yeah, this is another parenthetical statement. I think this is actually referring to what happens in here. That they should rest a little longer until both the number of their fellow servants and their brethren who would be killed as they were was completed. Um, yeah, multitude from the Great Tribulation. Yeah, I mean, that could be who we're waiting to be killed, actually. Cry of the martyrs. Maybe. I don't know. That's totally an assumption. Just because I'm just keying off of the fellow servants here and the fact that, these dead people are waiting for more people to die. And then after these things, I saw four angels standing. Do not harm the earth or sea, because we know that when you get back down here to Revelation 14, they've already been redeemed. So Revelation 14, I saw another angel in the midst. Oops. I looked, behold, a lamb standing on the Mount of Zion, with him 144,000. So this is probably to answer the question on the Great Tribulation and the Battle of Armageddon, it honestly, it just, everything we've read tonight, I'm leaning towards it sounds like two different battles. So it seems like this war with Iran is going to continue to escalate. The logistic systems around the world is going to continue to be disrupted, meaning gas prices are going to continue to get expensive. Food and resources are going to get harder and harder to get. So we should definitely be preparing for such an occasion. And then something's going to happen to drive people underground, which, for fear of things coming on the whole world, we didn't read that tonight, but I believe that's referring to seal number 6, when the magnetic pole shifts. And then between 6 and 7, that's when you have this the Lamb with 144,000. Proclamation of the three angels. All right, so I think I have what I need in order to put this on the timeline to start visualizing this, and then we can adjust it from there to figure out where things fit, and we can start tearing it apart to find all the holes in the logic. I don't know if you guys are completely lost. I'm not lost. I have more now than when we started with today. I'm of the opinion that the Great Tribulation is not the same as the Battle of Armageddon. I think that there's gonna be Great Tribulation up until the magnetic pole shifts. So basically, what's happening with Iran, I don't think is going to de-escalate before our attention is distracted by what's coming on the whole earth. Then I think that there will be the reaping. That might actually be the reaping of the 144,000. That might be why they're called the elect. That would suck if only 144,000 were reaped during that seal number 6. Well, no, because those who come out of the Great Tribulation are clothed in the blood of they've made their robes white in the blood of the Lamb. Anyway, that's a lot to take in. I know it's a really massive subject. I think if I can plot this on a timeline based on what we know, so basically expand this section out, because we're in this last quarter here. So I need to expand this out and start plotting where things fit, like what we know given what we've seen so far. um, in order to know what to expect and what to keep watching for, because that's really the best we can do. This isn't about predicting the future. This is about being prepared. Because if you're prepared, then you can love one another. If you prepare with extra food, then you can help others when for those who didn't prepare. Um, yeah. Anyway, see, you don't know if you're Jewish. They were spread all over the world. Time to do some DNA tests. But that could be symbolic number. That is true. The interesting thing, that is a good point, Fury, about it being a symbolic number. So 12, we know, so 12 biblically typically means governmental organization or governmental perfection. E.W. Bullinger wrote a book called Numbers and Scriptures. I don't have it. It's in my other office. Well, I have the book. It's just in my other office. I'll have to go get it and look up what he said about the number 12. But from what I remember is it means organizational or governmental organization. So it's indicative of governing people. That's why Jesus chose 12 disciples, is because it was the number representative of governing. So he trained 12 disciples and then gave them charge to go out and save people, convert people, reach people, spread the gospel. And then that number turned into a lot more. So 12,000 from each tribe. It could be a literal number to where these are those who are going to be placed in charge during his administration here on earth for the 1,000 years. It could just be an organizational number. Yeah, I could see that. Because of the meaning, because 144 is 12 times 12. So 12,000 times 12. Yeah, it's not 12 times 12. 12 times 12 is 144. 12 times 12,000 is 144,000. So I could see it being a figurative number representing, those who are, it could be the elite. It could be the ones who are in charge, I suppose. I'm new here tonight. Please explain to me the names of the two witnesses. Well, yeah. So the point of this show is because we know we're in the end times. It's to find the two witnesses and echo their prophecy for 1,260 days. So right now, based on what we know about the two witnesses, it seems as though it's Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Which, if that's shocking to you, I'm sorry. It is shocking to a lot of people. A lot of people are looking for Moses and Elijah. I actually made an argument. There's a video, I think it came out today, where I made the argument where Trump potentially could fit the attributes of Elijah. We went through and we looked at kind of a bullet point list of what Elijah did. And, if you were to summarize Elijah, he seems to be a point of catalyst or a pivot point where when he shows up, things change. Whether it's, telling a king he's no longer going to be king, raising somebody from the dead, controlling the weather so that it affects people over a period of time, or even like John the Baptist preparing people for the Messiah, Jesus. So given the sudden change in direction that the United States took to where we were dead, and then Trump came into being, and then now he, saved America, he kind of fits those qualities of an Elijah type person because he is a catalyst for change. And then, the interesting thing about Elon is he stutters. Moses had a stutter. Would that make Elon Moses? I hadn't really actually considered that. We should look at Moses's attributes, get a bullet point list of the things that Moses did and compare them to what Elon does. Elon is very outspoken. And, really the key factor is that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are the two most powerful men in the world right now, arguably. They torment people, that's for sure. Um, there's people who lump them together for no logical reason. So it's got to be spiritual. You know, they say F Elon and the felon, and they're talking about Elon and Donald Trump. So they suffice it to say they fit the attributes of the two witnesses, and you know we're continuing to explore that. I'm not saying thus saith the Lord. I'm not a prophet. I'm nobody special. I'm just a guy who is working to find the truth. I believe in God. I believe He sent His Son to die and save us. I do believe that that needed to happen in order for us to be saved and redeemed. And I believe that it's available to watch prophecy be fulfilled because Jesus told us these things beforehand so that when they happen, we will believe. John 14:29. That's kind of the mission statement of the show. John 14:29. I tell you these things beforehand so that when they happen, you will believe. Wait, actually, don't I have that up over here? There you go. And now I have told you before it comes that when it does come to pass, you may believe. That's kind of the mission statement of the show. So, Donald Trump and Elon Musk right now, because they're the two most powerful men in the world, because Elon Musk basically got Trump elected and saved freedom of speech, they seem to be the anointed who stand before the Lord of the whole earth. And quite honestly, the one of the harder attributes, one of the harder requirements for the two witnesses is that they prophesy for 1,260 days. So Donald Trump and Elon Musk, they are very good at talking every single day. They've always got something to say, even if it's the same thing. You know, oftentimes they're repeating, you know, similar, they're pointing out similar problems around the world, whether it's, you know, pointing out election fraud, you know, revealing, you know, problems that have happened. Elon's often talking about transgender issues and Islamic problems, migration issues. So, yeah, you know, I'm definitely open to considering other candidates for the two witnesses. I know a lot of people want to they want to see the fantasy versions of the two witnesses who breathe fire from their mouth, can literally stop the rain from falling so that there's droughts and turn the water to blood with tapping it with their staff. That would be cool. And if that happens, if they show up, our channel will be the very first channel to draw attention to them if we find them. So that's the objective of this channel for finding the two witnesses. So we pay attention to Donald Trump and Elon Musk right now because they're the two most pivotal people, and they're making it available for us to be able to speak to basically observe and, you know, reach out and help people if we can. Pray for those who need prayed for, feed those who need food, clothe those who are naked, visit those who are in prison, all that stuff. Found out there's a problem with Vance. He is close to Tucker and refuses to distance himself, causes a real break in the movement. Interesting. They had a meeting in the Republicans today. The discussion came up about him and Tucker and Candace. Ooh, spicy. That is an interesting development. Huh. Very interesting. Moses needed a spokesperson and didn't want to talk to Pharaoh or the public, which is why God sent him Aaron. Very true. Yeah, very true. Let's see. Why do they think it's Moses? Because of the is it because of turning the water to blood? That might be why he's often associated. One of the two witnesses is often associated with Moses. They handle him with kids. Yeah, Tucker. You know, we never did have that conversation. We never did cover Candace and Tucker. Let me see if I still have that video. Yeah, whatever came of this. Candace is going too far. So this was. Oh, this isn't it. it's somebody else talking about it. I used to have that little commercial prepped up, and then we didn't talk about it for the longest time, so I closed it out. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Candace, and I think people are just being this time is a time. It seems to be this is what prophets do: is they divide people and they establish people, and it seems as though Candace and Tucker are in the divided part. They're not being established; they're being pushed to be. It's almost like you can't be lukewarm right now. You need to you need to decide this day whom you serve, and it seems as though they're deciding wrongly. But yeah. Anyway, this was fun. I always like going through the scripture. I like that explainer video. I think he did a pretty good job there covering Joel and Isaiah and Zechariah, and Revelation 16. It's nice to know that the Armageddon talks about a hill that is built up. It's been built up over time, and that it's a geographic location where a lot of battles have taken place. So I think that's some good pieces for us. I'm going to start working on the timeline to see if I can't fit these last couple of things into place to see, even if I don't have like time periods for them, just to see the order of events to where they show up, to see what we can, what else we can glean from the scripture. Thank you for watching this clip from the Two Witnesses Live. If you like this content, do me a favor and please hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Visit us Monday through Friday at 4:30. We look forward to seeing you there.